Good morning, self-builders. I'm Fenton, and you're watching Self-Builds by Fenton. Today we're going to be talking about building control and the process that I went through to get 2 times 3 bedrooms properties through the process. So let's start off with understanding firstly what building control is specifically. So nobody try to tell me I'm wrong when I'm saying this, because I'm reading this direct quote from Planning Portal's website. Building regulations are minimum standards for design, construction and alterations to virtually every building. Regulations are developed by the UK government and approved by Parliament. So the simplest way to put it in relation to the difference between planning permission and building control, the way I would word it, being a novice or an amateur, I would say that planning permission is almost looking at the externals. So anything to do with like the roads, anything to do with like fitting in, how your project fits in with the local environment, etc. It is quite subjective when it's assessed. Whereas with regards to building control, that is more internal. So that's to do specifically with the house or project that you're working on itself from the inside out. So making sure, you've got the right materials depending on what element of the house you're talking about. So yeah, that's probably the best way I think to describe it. So planning permission is outside in, and building control is inside out. Building regulations approval is different from planning permission, and you might need both for your project. Obviously, in the case of what we're doing, we 100% need both. You can apply to any local authority, building control department, or an approved inspector for regulations approval. And what they mean by that is essentially you can go via the council to get your building control regulation through, or you can pick your own private, approved organization to do your building control. I mentioned in one of my last videos that initially we was going to go down the council route, and there are pros and cons to both. Like choosing a private building control inspector will often more than not provide you with a highly dedicated and hands-on service. So they'll visit you at every stage throughout the project, and it's probably more recommended for more complex builds. Also, you can choose an inspector with specialist experience, specific to what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to carry out as per your project, which can be obviously useful if your project has unusual elements to it. I don't know, you're doing something on grand designs, for example, and it requires that niche level of knowledge and experience. Reasons for choosing a local authority building control inspector. You could argue similar to a private building control inspector who might have specialist field. A local authority inspector will generally cover a smaller geographical area, and they would have done it already with multiple projects in that location. And this is why I was saying check the planning portal, because the likelihood is that there have been other projects, that have started surrounding you that have kind of done the same thing already. And you can even reach out to those people and ask them who they used, whether it was private or whether it was the council, to help you make a decision. They'll also have more detailed knowledge of the local area and any ground conditions and geological issues that might be relevant, which may impact your approval on getting building control. Also, the local authority inspector has the power of enforcement, unlike an independent inspector. So there's any problems with the build, they can resolve them directly, whereas a private inspector would have to hand it over to the local authority at that stage. So, depends where you want to go really. Pros and cons to both. And you could argue the costs for a private inspector may be a little bit higher than they are for a local building control authority. So take that into consideration when making a decision for your project. Obviously, everyone's different, everyone's scenario is different. So, I can't tell you exactly what you need to do. I can just make you aware of the facts. But fundamentally different to planning, in terms of the rules as to what allows them to approve your application, there are no nuances. So it's either going to pass or it's not. Unlike planning permission, where someone can just have a feeling that it doesn't meet a certain requirement or criteria and cancel your application. So that's one positive, I guess, of building control, so that you know that irrespective of which route you take, you're in a position where there is a solution to fix an issue. So along with building regulation, and this specifically applies to self-builders, make sure you get a structural warranty purchased as well. And I think they last up to 10 years or something, specific to self-builders. But both should result in a properly certified house renovation. Which way you choose to go will depend on your preference. But as I say, there's pros and cons to both. make the right decision.